It is the 9th of the 9th. The time is 8:23. I apologise for being abhorrently late, but sometimes technology can take itself a mind of its own. But today we're going to talk about this causality thing because Red Bull have dropped the ball, haven't they? And again, you can chalk this up to a very many things. Some say it's a fiddle brake that came off the car in Miami, that there were conversations had between the FIA and other teams, and they said that they need to seek counsel. Indeed, Red Bull need to take off this fiddle brake or inertia valve or torque steer if rumour and the F1 word on the F1 curb is anything that you can invest in. Some say that Christian Horner allegation gate, the rumour around the PA and some alleged misconduct allegations, that they've taken a toll on Red Bull's personnel, and success in F1 is nothing but a function of your ability to keep, sign and keep really, really good people. Jonathan Wheatley's not long left, so too Adrian Newey, so too Rob Marshall, so too Dan Fellows, each of whom contributed materially to the success that Red Bull have had over the past couple of years, did they not? So too, we need to talk about Father Time, because as far as this rule and reg set, one could argue that each and every single time you get towards the end of a rule and reg set, that convergence happens. That at the start of said rule and reg set, one team will take a leap. Please see 2009 Ross Brawn settings, double diffuser setting. It always happens. One of the oldest truisms in F1 history. This time it was Red Bull's turn. 2022, they nailed it. Why? Because it's Adrian Newey settings, and we will be talking about that, I'm sure, more and more over the next 24 hours before this Aston Martin press conference. But Red Bull, it was their turn. But yet and still, say all that to say this: Father Time is undefeated, undisputed, pound for pound, never lost a round. And this always happens, right? Teams will catch up, one makes a leap and the others realise, copy and paste onto their own car. And Christian Horner has spoken about this, has he not? He said that McLaren looks awfully lot like our RB19, that they've learned the lessons, and you would expect for that, since Rob Marshall is no longer at the Bulls that are red. He's taken his intellectual property and plied his trade at the papaya coloured team. So what are we doing here, Adrian Newey? This, then, as far as Red Bull and convergence upon the most dominant machine that we've ever seen, being the previous iteration in the RB19, this RB20 being its younger, fresher, not so quick brother. This is something that F1 fans, grizzled F1 fans, should expect. Peter is as good today. You're a legend, genius. I appreciate that. So, and Liam, I will come to that point, mate, because that's a bit techie. Thank you so much for the donation. However, I digress. Look, here's what it is as far as this convergence story. There are many things that we need to pull out, very many threads. So too, you can talk about Checo Perez being a passenger. You think that having that dude in that car is going to help push Red Bull as an operation, as an F1 entity forward? Absolutely flipping not. He's a hindrance. I said it on a gazillion occasions, and I will say it again for the avoidance of doubt. It's less risky to jettison one Checo Perez as at September 2024 than it is to keep him. Get rid of him. That dude has been underperforming, and when you're fighting a fight against the McLarens, the papaya coloured team, you can't afford to carry any dead weight. A team is only as good as its weakest link, right? And Checo Perez is nothing if not that. But over and above all of the aforementioned, here's where it gets techie, ladies and gents. Because I think there's something that we've all been missing here. There's a story, an elephant in the room, and that takes the face of upgrades. Red Bull have been bringing loads of them of late, but they've taken them backwards, not forwards. Downgrades or upgrades? Which one of these is the misnomer? Which one of these best characterises the expedition of Red Bull's learning curve as far as that car, or lack thereof? These indeed have been downgrades. New floor edge, suspension et al. They don't know where they're going. Don't believe me? You only need to go and talk to Christian Horner. He will tell you. Not only do they not know, but they cannot fix for it. This isn't about lead times or operational bottlenecks. This is about intellectual property, because they no longer have Adrian Newey there to take a step back to see the F1 wood for the F1 trees to troubleshoot, to get underneath the car and see the Venturi tunnels and understand this in earnest. There is a aerodynamic mind on the grid currently who sees airflow, some say. That dude has a name, and his name is Adrian Newey. No longer at the balls that are red. So how do you fix for that then, Christian? And look, as far as this convergence story, there are two things at hand. One is the downfall of Red Bulls. Their performance has absolutely dropped off in relative terms, 100%. But there is also another narrative that not too many people are talking about, particularly as far as their nearest competitors in McLaren, as far as that Drivers' Championship is concerned. Listen, as far as super times, if you take the quickest lap over the first 5 races, the difference between Red Bull in top position and McLaren in second, 0.5%, and that was material. What we're talking about there is that Red Bull had time in hand in earnest. Over the most recent 5 races, however, have a guess what that delta is, the difference between Red Bull and McLaren. It's flipped. As near as makes no difference flat, 0.01% is what McLaren now have in hand over Red Bull. That, ladies and gents, is absolute chaos. A proper paradigm shift in performance terms. But there are two things at play in that. Not only have Red Bull done one of these stasis, if not dropped off, but McLaren have started to come on now, haven't they? Now, there are very many root causality threads in that at which we can pull. First, of course, you've got to talk about Andrea Stella. Called him the Pep Guardiola of Formula One, a fantastic racing mind. You only need to go and listen to him on the Beyond the Grid podcast. He doesn't talk about one single upgrade driving performance. He wants to institute the parameters using which McLaren can get success over a period of time. He's talking medium to long term now, not just a flash in the pan. He's brilliant and God tier. I would argue that there is no better team principal as at ninth of the ninth of the ninth. 2024. Go on, Cameron, get your words out. Zach Brown, commercial acumen setting. He's God tier. Maybe not the best, goatiest racing mind, but he's got something to add. Of course, when we're talking causality here, he needs to get himself a cheeky name check. And then as far as their driver pairing, they're not bad, eh? Oscar Jack Piastri and Lando No-Wins. Not half bad, you could argue. Some have argued that they are the best currently on the grid. But above all else, as far as which one of these things is the lion's share in the root causality pie, you've got to talk about their upgrades, ladies and gents. And nobody's bloody talking about it. All of their upgrades that they've brought, in stark contrast to the balls that are red, have worked. And there's got to be a reason for that, right? Why are they not making the mistakes that the balls that are red are? Because again, for the avoidance of that, every single time Red Bull seem to bring an upgrade, it takes them back a step. But McLaren, on the other hand, in stark contrast, they haven't missed yet. Why am I thinking this? I hear you say, well, I was reading an article, and for the avoidance of doubt, all F1 journalistic publications are made equal, but some are made more equal than others. Shout out to Adam Cooper over at Motorsport Magazine. He's written an article and it's twigged over here. He talks extensively about the materials, the tools that McLaren are bringing and why they can bring those new wind tunnel settings, eureka moments. They've just upgraded their wind tunnel, haven't they? Adam Cooper of Motorsport Magazine writes, it was after last year's summer break that McLaren's aerodynamicists finally abandoned years of commuting to Toyota in Cologne and switched their attention to the totally revamped facility in Woking, built on site of its predecessor, which hadn't been used by the F1 team for many years. Again, one of the oldest truisms in F1 history. If you're going to build infrastructure, it needs to be in Middle England, right? Why were they commuting to Toyota? That's bonkers. It's a bottleneck logistically, if ever I've saw one. Now, however, McLaren have themselves a proper inbuilt unit on site, a god-tier wind tunnel. Again, Aston Martin are building theirs in real time. Red Bull don't have that anymore. No longer are they market leading, and this is techie, ladies and gents. Lest we forget, they need, and again, you need those people to operate the wind tunnel in kind, and that's intellectual property also. But I digress. Adam Cooper of Motorsport magazine continues. It's helped too that the team has benefited from its position in the FIA's aerodynamic testing restriction league table, which specifies a sliding scale of tonneau hours and computational fluid dynamics (CFD) usage in reverse championship order. They are now benefiting from the sliding scale settings. This is handicap. They are one of the teams who have the most CFD and wind tunnel time, are they not? McLaren was 6th in the points prior to last year's July to December period, 4th for January to June this year, and still only 3rd ahead of current July to December period. Oh, the humanity, ladies and gents. I did not realise that they had so much wind tunnel time and CFD. Not only does the team have a new wind tunnel, it's also been able to make more use of it than its main rivals have been because of this sliding rule scale. Given the results on track, then, continues our mate Adam Cooper, it's safe to assume that the new Woking wind tunnel is working well and producing accurate results. What's he talking about here, Adam Cooper? He's talking about correlation, and again, this is the very thing that Red Bull Racing do not have as at the 9th of the 9th 2024. They keep bringing things, and there is a disconnect between the bloody wind tunnel and the real world. They don't work on track. Oh, the humanity. Does McLaren boss Andrea Stella agree that the wind tunnel has been key to the team's upsurge in form and ability to consistently introduce upgrades that work? Intriguingly, he suggests that the team has been careful to only bring parts that it was fully confident in. This is what we're talking about, ladies and gents. This is chaos. McLaren have nailed it. Finally, they have the infrastructure requisite to win races and therefore championships. And they also have the team, the personnel requisite to operate the aforementioned toolage, the infrastructure, the wind tunnel. And that's why they haven't been missing of late, bringing all the upgrades, and they have worked. No correlation issues materially to speak of. Techie, ladies and gents. McLaren currently, as far as Lando Norris, sits 62 points away from Max Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship. And here's where it gets very techie. Look, Max Verstappen hitherto season to date has always been a material favourite to win the championships. Odds makers now have him at 62.5%. Lando Norris is 36%. They think, therefore, there is one man in the championship capable of beating Maximilian Verstappen. He drives himself a papaya-coloured car at the behest of one Andrea Stella and Zach Brown. That chap, ladies and gents, he has a name. His name is Lando No-Wins. Oh, the humanity.